This afternoon, the fate of the now minority parliament to be decided by the Supreme Court, as the court is set to rule on a case brought before it by Alexander Afenyo-Markin, seeking to withhold the Speaker of Parliament from declaring 4 seats in Parliament as vacant. Now, as you may know, the Speaker of Parliament on Thursday declared the seat of 4 sitting members of Parliament as vacant after they decided to change their political affiliations. Now, who these MPs ask, you may be asking. Well, it's coming up on your screens now, as you can see there. We have Peter Yao Kwachi Aka. He's currently the NDC MP for Amenfi Central constituency, which is in the Western region. Andrew Amwakon Esiama, the currently independent MP for Fomena constituency, who also doubles as the second deputy speaker of Parliament. He has had his seat declared as vacant. We also have the NPP MP for Aguna West, Cynthia Mamle Morrison. She used to be Minister for Gender. And also NPP MP for Suhum Boafo Kojo Asante. His seat has also been declared as vacant. Well, we're just 24 hours after the grand ruling which shifted majority control of Parliament from the MPP to the NDC. And while the NDC side has been jubilant, the MPP side has been contesting the ruling and insisting they still are in the majority. The two sides have been addressing the media in separate news conferences in Parliament today. Let's start with the MPP. A furious Alexander Afenyo-Markin accused the Speaker of dancing to the tune of his party, the NDC. He served notice that his side of the House will use all legal means possible to resist the, quote, unconstitutional, unquote, conduct of the Speaker. They will also boycott sitting in Parliament henceforth.
We call upon the good people of Ghana to condemn the conduct of Mr. Speaker and then the NDC minority. And it was very rich. It was very rich to hear Dr. Forson immediately proclaiming to be a majority leader. In fact, Mr. Speaker himself, in spite of doing their bidding, fell short of declaring them to be the majority, in spite of all. And then he still found space to address me as majority leader and still address him as minority leader. But again, they further exposed themselves, because immediately after, their flag bearer was on a campaign platform claiming that God has given them the majority status. Is that how God grants majority status on individuals who are full of mischief, vicious, and evil? What they did was evil. What they did in Parliament yesterday was evil. NDC does not believe in democracy. They believe in chaos. And we are law-abiding citizens. We in the MPP are Democrats. We believe in the rule of law, and that is why we calmly left the chamber for them. And we know that if we make our case well in court, the court will make a determination that would.
Apologies for the last bit of that sound there, but the NDC majority has meanwhile jammed to the defense of Speaker Alban Bagbin, who has come under intense fire from the MPP. Addressing journalists in Parliament, Deputy Whip of the side, Ahmed Ibrahim, insisted the Speaker paid fidelity to the law.
He said the notice of pull by the letter commission is out, and the pictures of those 4 MPs are there. They have changed their status, and based on that, there is automatic cessation. If you listen to the Constitution very well, it's a member of Parliament shall vacate his seat if he leaves the party based upon which he came to Parliament at the time of his election into that Parliament. So at the time of Kojo Asante's election to Parliament of Ghana, he was MPP member, and therefore he must remain MPP member until 6 January 2025. At the time, Apia as and Asiama, MPP and independent member for Fomena, was filing his nomination to come to Parliament in 2021. He came as an independent member for Fomina, and therefore within the 4-year mandate, his status must not change. Have their status changed or not? It has changed. And the Speaker says that that article was put into the Constitution to be able to protect the loyalty of the members of Parliament to their constituent. So if you have come and you have changed your loyalty, should they still allow you to be there? So clearly, we don't need to belabor this. And I don't think even a professor, Professor Wayoseni, got it wrong. And you don't need a professor to tell you this. It's as clear as that. So I don't think the Speaker got it wrong. The political parties, if not politics that they are doing, are aware of the consequences. And that is why they always defer primaries in those constituencies that they are massaging. If not, why is it that in January they didn't open nominations in Fomina?
Now, Ahmed Ibrahim has also been fighting the suggestion by the MPP group that the Speaker should have waited for the Supreme Court to decide a case filed before it before making his ruling.
Why were they dodging it? So we must not take it as if it is the Speaker who has given the ruling. Then they are saying, oh, there must be Supreme Court. Speaker is interpreting the Constitution. He must allow the Supreme Court to rule. My brother, was it the Supreme Court that ruled against Abraham Kofi Asante? Was it the Supreme Court that ruled upon Inus Afuseni? Was it the Supreme Court that ruled upon Andy Asiama? They say Andy Asiama, MP for Fomina. My brother, if it is not broken, don't fix it. You go to Supreme Court for interpretation. But as long as Parliament is concerned, the one who defend and interpret the rules of procedure, so long as Parliament is concerned, is the Speaker of Parliament. And therefore, we must not be shaking our responsibility. Even as minority leader then, the Speaker defended the Constitution. And it was upheld by the then venerable, distinguished Speaker Peter Ajete. And therefore, I don't think that what the new minority are doing is in the right direction. They are wrong, and they must agree that they are wrong. And they should have foresaw this. They should have foresaw it. If they know Bekwai or Edis in there, Fomena is their stronghold, they should have supported the member of Parliament, because looking at the sensitive nature of this current Parliament. But they said were running after Apia Kubi. They were running after Asiama. They were running after Cynthia Morrison. When you don't have the numbers, make sure you are able to work with everybody, whether you love them or you hate them. You ask for minority, you have gotten it.
Well, since this matter, came to being, many reactions have been trickling in. This afternoon, there have been reactions from some of the constituents of the areas affected by the Speaker's ruling. First, resident of Aguna West in the Central Region, where Cynthia Mamle Morrison hails from. And then we can hear from resident of Fomina in the Ashanti region, where Andrew Siama hails from.
How near Maninu Kadanda and I am say Abato Agona West. And I'm say Obiara Office Sabi, where you Yasia and Yasi Bianiji. They say, oh, you saw where Yasi or my family Yasi, a Yasi, into Obaya then when you Yasi Biani. Into the idea how young Ayate Tema Agona West already Punto and Kankono, a Bessanich. Idea say I am Agona Maitu Pono, and Yadi Benebu, and I'm say, ye member of Parliament, Obaka Copper. The Popular Parliament, Abba Agona Western, Oma Pamano, Yeni MPP, or the idea, how I give you.
And Yasempa, and so Abanadin Abba, and I said there were any man, as I assure me, because there are Papa Fasta, and Tinawasan Abasabasaya, Baya, Amatisia, Yawaha Union, Nurse, I didn't near much to you. Said the Yabina. Openibia, Obetumi with the enemy, and fear way into me in Cobanisi, which is here another. My and a shiny Abashin is about to wear a baby. They between Padima, Obedi, and Nessa, a Posoma, Abuna West constituency, the Tumaco, about to natural. But I don't know what's it mean. Yes, sure, sir. You quite say, Obetum, and I speak of Parliament, when you quite say, Obetum declare, sir, a year vacant. Sana is an attitude to from them say, or no quite to be declared as vacant, sir. Aguna West and I said for Mena and whatever it is on your vacancy. I don't know, send a woman go to work Canada, any else you go to they team a concern. If they were declared, say, or honey a vacancy there, still I go to a year, Juma. No, baby, no. You're supporting me, Jumana Apaso. Oh, instead, I'm not sure, say, I'll have it to my back because we are more or less 1 month to election or less than 2 months to election. I don't think, sir, we did that.
Evidence here, no, and MPP are memoir, come out for education, some of education. I know that CJHS, no make my copy, every JHS acquires. It's a toilet, not a baby. So, what's the baby? Acquire a good to a head in a royal and a dear me. So, what's the baby? Or be, what's the baby? Only pay for us.
Because Papa no boy, you want to be our Baha, the Indian, and Yama or Yama, the Yahubi. Or Yenema be or me and Sue or Yakwan, yes, sitting now, Yama. Papa, dear, or my encouraging and my Papa, dear, to say a Yina Kunya in general, a high pa, Miamina idea, a hammy pa. Something for Yam one say, Womuniano, more Yanaduma. Womuniano, so no so Munya, area, Bessa Jina, independence, Papa Nasaba. The Bessa Jina, that dream, the big Jina, Papa Nasaba, was Woyuma, Yuma or Yasuyan.
They will flock when it's a behind the baby. Papa, no, because one when you were boy, Papa, you're growing. The wind pips, yeah, what I'm a white year, you must have a panada. To a big way, like I said, you have any things about holding to while boy, yes, we are Papa, Yaka, and I want to say Yaka. With your lawyer, boy, in Jaconan, will tell you about woman.
One quite independent.
Okay. Once uncle, you need people name my
So those were some reactions from the constituents of these MPs, some of the MPs who have been affected by this ruling by the Speaker, Alban Sumana Parkping. Now, we also understand from the Supreme Court that a 5-member Supreme Court panel presided over by Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu is actually delivering a ruling on whether the Speaker of Parliament's decision to declare 4 seats vacant should be temporarily suspended for a minimum of 10 days. We'll bring you details of that ruling here on the show. So do stay with us for all of those rulings. But let's broaden the conversation now. Joining me is Kofi Kukubo, a governance expert. We're also expecting to be joined by Law Justice Abdullahi, who is a law lecturer. Dr. Bernard Tutuboyne is a political marketing analyst. For us to really put context to all of the things that have been happening in Parliament. Mr. Kukubo, I'm grateful to you for joining us here. From a governance standpoint, what do you read will be the impact of what just happened in Parliament yesterday?
Well, from a governance standpoint, Parliament or the Speaker has suspended the representation of the affected constituencies in Parliament. Considering the fact that a by-election cannot be held within 30 days to when the election will be held. So what, from a governance point of view, the Parliament did yesterday was that those affected constituencies can never have a representation in Parliament until January 7, 2025. Now the question therefore is, as much as Parliament makes its own rule, we also have to consider whether those rules affect the constitutional rights and mandates of the people.
Okay.
And if that affects that, then what it means is that the constitutional clause must be invoked. However, we also need to look at the procedures involved in arriving at that decision, and also at the same time, you must also consider the time that decision is taken. The time is that decision was taken at the time where the Speaker knows that no by-election will be held before January 7.
Yeah.
So now, critical decisions that are supposed to be taken that will affect the country and affect the constituency. The Speaker has denied them that constitutional mandate for their representative to participate in decision making. That has been denied. Now, we may also look at a procedural angle. Where is it, or at which point can the Speaker of Parliament say that the affected people have vacated their seat? Is it at the point of death, as prescribed in the Constitution, or is it at the point where the political party that they represent writes a letter to the Speaker of the House to state that these affected people who contested on the vehicle of the political party, whether it's MPP or NDC, have defected. So therefore, do not, at the moment, reflect the vision or the purpose of the constituency that they represent. Because as if they contested on a political party ticket and they were voted into parliament on those political party tickets, it therefore means that the constituency believes in the policies or the manifesto of that political party. Therefore, they have elected a person from their constituency to represent them and promote that policy in parliament for their benefit.
Okay.
So at which point can we say that the seat is vacant? As the political parties are into the Speaker of Parliament.
That's something that we will get to know when the Supreme Court gets into this. But there is a breaking news on this particular development. Well, news coming in from the Supreme Court is that the Supreme Court has stayed the execution of the ruling of the Speaker of Parliament, declaring 4 seats vacant pending determination of the substantive suit. Now, mind this, or just take this into proper context. It says, Parliament directed to recognize and allow the 4 MPs to duly represent their constituencies and conduct the duties of the office. But know this. Now, this is going to be the decision until the Supreme Court decides on the substantive matter. So, yesterday, the Speaker of Parliament declared a seat vacant, but today, the Supreme Court says that decision has to be stayed. So, what this technically means is that the status quo remains. The 4 seats that were declared vacant are no longer seats that are vacant. The MPs are back in the House. That is the ruling coming in from the Supreme Court. We will be bringing you more reactions from the Supreme Court. Let me bring in Law Lecturer Justice Abdullahi. Justice, I'm grateful to you for joining us here. I mean, does this come to you as a surprise, or you expected this to happen?
Absolutely a surprise. I mean, this is the most amazing decision I've ever had. Within 2 days of filing an application, it has been heard, and a decision rendered. It's the most amazing thing I've heard. To say the least, I didn't know that our court could work this faster, and it's impressive to hear this thing, really. Okay,
so this is good for the court or for the law.
I wouldn't say it's good or bad. Considering that the circumstances naturally warranted some speedy adjudication to bring some level of clarity, and so. But this being an injunction, it means that we are likely to be with this status quo, going forward for the rest of the tenure of this parliament, and because the final decision might never come until God knows when. But with this rapid injunction application being heard, and but we do not know the details of this, but clearly, with this coming, it stands to reason that perhaps the suit itself might also have the same the same speed of light, if need be.
So, what it therefore means is that the Afeomakin-led side is now the majority again, and the Dr. Keselato Forson side is the minority again?
If like the details would show, but most likely yes.
Okay.
Most likely yes. But if the Supreme Court, if Parliament is indeed ordered to stay, because really now this is the reason for this is because at this moment the decision was by the Supreme Court is made today. An injunction is typically to freeze the status quo. The status quo of today is that the Afenyon Markin-led side of Parliament is the minority, and what's it called? Dr. Keselato Forson's side is the majority. So the reading of the injunction, the devil is in the details. So without knowing the details, because you cannot say whether what is being frozen is the decision as at yesterday. Or the decision as of today.
Well, but Justice, the
technically different.
The MPP side was the one that went to court and asked the Supreme Court to stay the ruling by the Speaker. So if that decision is stayed, doesn't it then mean that the old status quo, which had the MPP side as majority, being retained? Of course, if the 4 seats have now been stayed, which means that they have not been declared vacant, it makes them majority side, doesn't it?
No, not at all. Because as I was explaining earlier, the decision of the Speaker which they sought to restrain had already been delivered.
Okay.
So technically, there's nothing you're saying. That decision is already gone. Okay. And so you can't say the decision that has already been delivered.
Okay.
And so really, it stands to reason that assuming, like I said, because we do not have the details of the decision, assuming that is what is sought to be stayed, and that is what has been stayed, it's legally impossible.
Okay.
It's legally impossible because it has already been rendered. Some lawyers will call it otious, and so it is gone. You can't do anything about it. On the other hand, if the decision is targeted at freezing the members of Parliament from leaving Parliament, I don't know how that would be possible. So really, it is better if we have the decision so that.
Okay, Justice, maybe I should help you with this coming in from Supreme Court. It says Parliament has been directed to recognize and allow the 4 MPs to duly represent their constituencies and conduct the duties of their office. So it means their seats are no longer vacant.
So that changes it. Exactly. So that changes it. So it means that the way you report an injunction sometimes without reading the details might lead to complete miscommunication and mislead the general public. It's the details that would show exactly what has happened. And in this case, from the reading that you've just pointed out, we can't do much than to have the status quo ante remaining.
Okay, I'll come back to you and get more reaction on the ruling itself, the ruling by the Speaker, and more on this. But let me bring in our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent and also a member of our Legal Affairs desk, Kweku Asante, who has been at the Supreme Court monitoring this development for us. Kweku, you were there. Give us more from what's happening in court.
The judgment has been handed down by the Supreme Court, saying the execution of the ruling that was delivered yesterday by Alban Bagbin in Parliament. Alban Bagbin declared 4 seats vacant, and the majority have managed to get the Supreme Court to sit on this matter expeditiously this morning. We have to get details on how exactly they managed to do that, but they have managed to get the Supreme Court to sit on this matter. The court, presided over by Chief Justice Gertrude Sokono, 5-0, a unanimous judgment by the Supreme Court. Honorable K.C. Amon is here. Before he goes, I want to get a word from him before he sits in his car. Honorable K.C. Amon, this is Joy FM, Joy News. Are you excited by the ruling that has been handed down by the Supreme Court?
I told you yesterday that the decision wasn't right. Legally, I told you he was out of order. You had a passion. You had a passion with which the ruling was delivered. I told you, so I'm not surprised at all. And then I would have been surprised at anything otherwise than what happened.
The court granted this up until the end of the determination of the case. When the lawyers asked for 10 days, that means that the court takes seriousness of it.
Your call has been put on hold. Please wait.
You are the speaker. You are entitled to
especially of rulings within your jurisdiction. Therefore, when it comes to this matter, I told you yesterday, in the room of so many lawyers, everybody's got their own idea. So the speaker, fortunately, you're also a lawyer. This is a matter of clear interpretation.
Well, we'll get back to the court so we can bring you more reactions from what's happening there. But you can clearly see that the MPP side is in a jubilant mood, celebrating this ruling by the Supreme Court, which is staying the ruling by the Speaker of Parliament and asking or directing the Parliament to allow the 4 MPs to keep serving their constituents in the House and performing the duties of their office. Quite interesting. Less than 24 hours ago, the judge or the Speaker of the House declared 4 seats as vacant, but today the Supreme Court has overturned that particular ruling that the Speaker delivered there. Let me bring in Bernard Tutu Boahing. He is a political marketer. I'm grateful to you, Bernard, for joining us here. I mean, from yesterday, less than 24 hours ago, and today, what do you make of what's happening in our political landscape?
Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to viewers. I think that it's quite interesting what we are hearing and reading, based on the new dimensions and perspectives in Parliament. For me, as someone who has been following politics, this particular Parliament, has come with some level of interest in the sense that, the dynamics keeps changing. I think that, yes, even though people are referring to the judgment has been so fast, I think that we need some of these things, going forward as a developing country, whenever there's an issue which needs to be tackled immediately, the court will come together to do it. I also see that between Article 97 and Article 99, there are a lot of lessons to be learned. And this is where I feel that the Honorable Speaker of Parliament, probably could have done a lot of extensive reading and consultations, and probably shouldn't have relied on his, personal interpretations of Article 97. Going forward, I think that, again, we've gotten to a stage in our democratic dispensation where we cannot put on or we cannot exchange the lens of rationality, and fairness, for political lenses. And I believe that these are not good signs, if you want to establish ourselves as a country with a very good democratic image and credibility. Per my estimation, the seat of the Speaker of Parliament, is to probably conduct Parliament or manage Parliament, within the remits of fairness, to the state. And so much commitment to the states. Okay. And so when it gets to such matters of national interest, where it is supposed, rulings are supposed to be coming from a national perspective, but it is not done and then forced within the lines of partisanship, then I think that it is very, very unfortunate, for us as a country. Can
the Speaker be faulted for taking the line he took based on his understanding of that provision, Article 97, 1G and H? He's been in Parliament for that longer time. Can he be faulted for understanding it the way he did?
Yes. I just want to, state emphatically that the Speaker of Parliament faulted. Because you see, for his years of experiences, his knowledge in Parliament and the laws of this country, I think that he should have probably gone further beyond Article 97, to go and then read 98, 99 and the rest, to be able to probably, make a fair judgment and not probably, be in a haste, to sort of put that kind of ruling, in there yesterday. And you see, this ruling is probably an indictment, to his experiences and image, and I feel that it shouldn't have gone there. You see, since yesterday, people have been referring to, the former, Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Michael Quay, in his ruling with regards to the
former MP,
MP. Yes, exactly. And you see, when one person commits a mistake, it is not your responsibility as a second fellow, to probably take reason out of that first mistake to also make an equal mistake. No, at least someone's mistake should probably guide you into making a rational, decision, that will help, the good of all, but not probably to, probably say that because somebody did this, I will equally do same. And I think that is where, per my estimation, the Speaker didn't do this nation any good.
Well, Mr. Boyne, but if you read the Speaker's statement, he says, and I'm reading paragraph 26, it says, quote, "It is important to point out, in the present matter before the House, the notice of poll is available at the Electoral Commission on all the 275 constituencies. I have duly taken note of the notice of the poll. Furthermore, no MP in making comment to the statement made to the House by the minority leader denies this glaring and notorious fact. He says his evidence is with the notice of poll, where he sees that these MPs have switched from where they are currently in terms of being members of parliament to joining either a political party or deciding to run on the ticket of an independent candidate. And that's why he arrived at this conclusion. When the article he made reference to says the MP will vacate his seat if he decides to join another party other than the party on which he was voted into parliament, or decides to remain in parliament as independent. How can it be his own personal judgment?
Yes, so you see, even though he quoted Article 97, all right, the interpretation is where subjectivity comes in, all right? And this is where my point is.
Okay.
Now, judging from where the Supreme Court is coming from, all right, the four people or the four parliamentarians are in the line of duty serving their constituencies under this current parliament. All right. And so if they had written, to parliament, if they are written to their political parties, if they had written to the Speaker of Parliament, then there wouldn't be any problem with that.
Okay.
But as long as they continue serving the mandate given to them by their constituencies.
Okay. So Dr. Boyne, I kindly hold the line for me briefly. Let me take you back to the court. For more reactions, Kweku Asante has joined us back. Kweku, what more can you report?
Well, so a 5-member panel presided over by the Chief Justice herself, Justice Gertrude Tokono, have stayed the ruling of Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin yesterday. You will recall that yesterday, Speaker Alban Bagbin ruled that the 4 MPs, 3 of them majority MPs, one in the minority NDC, have all vacated their seats because they have filed to contest as independent candidates or on a party ticket. That is different from the platform that it came to Parliament on. It is on this basis that Alban Bagbin declared all those 4 seats vacant. But this morning, the Supreme Court has just delivered this ruling. In fact, this afternoon, I should say, they've delivered this ruling. I do not know how exactly the majority were able to get the court to do so. With this information, we'll be able to verify. But ultimately, the court has decided 5-0 unanimously that these 4 MPs should be allowed to as it were, go about their normal parliamentary duties, and that the ruling the Speaker make, staying or declaring their seat vacant, is stayed until the full determination of this matter. The lawyers of Afenyo Makin asked for, of course, an interim injunction of 10 days, which would have subsisted for 10 days. But the court, in its own wisdom, decided that because of the very weighty nature of this matter, this interim injunction should subsist up until the full determination of the case. The court, in reaching this conclusion, referred to the very important matter of the natural justice that the Parliament of Ghana did not hear from these 4 MPs. At least they should have heard from them before coming to the conclusion. And also the very important matter that without actually having granted them hearing and declaring these seats vacant, these persons will all not be properly represented or represent their people in the constituency from which they all came to Parliament on. So these are the reasoning that Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono, in reading the unanimous judgment of the court, I mean, just gave out minutes ago in the Supreme Court here.
Interesting. I mean, you've been speaking to some of the members of that side who were in court. What has been the reaction that they've been giving you?
Well, their leader, Alexander Penyomakin, who himself filed this action in court, granted us interview, spoke about how excited he was that the court had come to this conclusion. He said he was always sure that this is the conclusion the court will come to because of the very weighty nature of this matter. And so he's excited. He says that they are going to file their processes and ensure that this case travels and is determined expeditiously. But as far as they are concerned, they knew that the Supreme Court will come to this conclusion, and that is why they did not do anything chaotic on the floor yesterday. But ultimately, they believed in the rule of law, and the Supreme Court has vindicated them, and that these votes were declared vacant unconstitutionally and unlawfully.
So it as though nothing changes in the House. Both sides remain majority.
Well, yes, when the House resumes sitting tomorrow, Tuesday, I should say, nothing would have changed because that ruling of the Speaker that purported to declare these 4 seats vacant has now been stayed by the Supreme Court. So these 4 MPs can now come in, which will normally mean that the NPP side will restore their majority in Parliament. They will go back to their 138 MPs. The NDC will go back to their 137 and will continue to remain as the minority party in Parliament.
Kwekwe, I'm grateful to you for this update that you brought to us from the court. But let me bring in Lawyer Justice Abdullah here. Lawyer, so you heard there, I mean, before I came on, I spoke with a lawyer who was talking about the law of natural justice, which could play a part in this. And you heard Kwekwe Asante there citing the same thing, that the judges referred to the law of natural justice. There's a case there, right? That if you don't hear the one who, upon who this matters, then of course, you are denying the person a fair hearing.
Yes, the principles of natural justice are cardinal principles of our legal jurisprudence, and so it is clearly a known part of the fundamental right that every individual faced with any issue is entitled to. I mean, without hearing the person, it could be a basis for a decision, an adverse decision by a court of law. This is for me a new introduction into this whole discussion. And so once it is before the courts for an appropriate determination of it, we are all for it. The Speaker and I think what we should remember is that it ought to be the case that the Speaker indeed denied these people their right to speak. If they were afforded opportunity, if they were in Parliament, they were afforded opportunity to speak and they did not, you cannot invoke the principles of natural justice. It doesn't work that way. They are members of Parliament. A decision being made were a decision affecting their seats. So if they were in office and they did not contribute to the discussion and they were allowed to contribute but did not, or they were afforded all the opportunities and they did not take advantage of it, then they cannot complain about the principles of natural justice.
I'm sure.
Second, I do not think that they are the ones complaining at this moment. It is now Afenyo Markins, who is not really one of the 4 people who is complaining about these principles of natural justice. I'm wondering how a third party sitting on the fence can be invoking the principles of natural justice for and on behalf of a person who was, if the facts are correct, who was in Parliament but did not question the Speaker for not being allowed to speak. I don't know how this really. I mean, I think it's there are a lot of questions than the information we are getting. But
lawyer, can't same also be said about a third party of a sort who notified the Speaker of Parliament that these 4 MP seats must be declared vacant, and not they, all their political parties are letting the Speaker of Parliament?
First of all, the political party, starting from there, they are not even stakeholders in Parliament. They do not have any role to play in Parliament. And so they cannot invoke the internal processes of Parliament in order for the Speaker or any other person to make a determination of this issue, which is what happened in Speaker Okwe's case, and indeed being the basis for my disagreement with Speaker Okwe's decision in expelling Esiama at the time. Now, with this particular one, the dynamics are completely different. Parliament invoked its own internal mechanisms. And out of that internal mechanisms that were invoked, members of Parliament were the ones who invoked this, and they have every right to invoke that. Like I said earlier, if the other members of Parliament, I mean those who whose issue is in contention at this moment, if they were there and the Speaker did not deny them the opportunity, then they cannot, they cannot be heard to be complaining about these principles of natural justice, among other things.
Now, let me take you to the Speaker's ruling and help us understand how these. Now, if you read from the Speaker's own judgment, I mean, the decision that he gave, he says, quote, "Honorable members, it has been suggested by some members that provisions of Article 97(1)(g) and (h), which address the vacating of a member of Parliament seat due to defection, should be understood prospectively. That is, they should apply only to future Parliament and not to the term of office of Parliament when the act occur. While this argument may appear to offer a pragmatic approach, it must be firmly dismissed as both untenable and inconsistent with the constitutional purpose of these provisions. One may ask, what does Article 97 purport to do? The clear intent of Article 97(1)(g) and (h), to my understanding, is to preserve party loyalty, engender trust, and protect the mandate of the voter and representation throughout an MP's term of office. People have referred to this as interpret, and so at the term of office is, I unquote him there. Then I say people have referred to this as interpreting the Constitution. Did the Speaker overreach or go beyond his authority? Because people say what he did was in the remit of the Supreme Court and not the Parliament.
That is a very it's a very weird way of looking at this whole thing. So let's put this into perspective.
Okay.
A Speaker was called upon to make a decision. Now, would you say that in making that decision, the person authorized to make that decision is interpreting or applying the Constitution?
Okay.
I think it's too easy when you are the victim to say that the person is interpreting the Constitution.
Okay.
Now, the other side is this. Would we also say, let's assume that the Speaker indeed interpreted the Constitution. Would we assume by the same set of facts and circumstances that Speaker Okwe also interpreted the Constitution 4 years ago, rather than applying the Constitution? The answer to that question should suffice for a judgment on what Speaker Bagben did. Now, my perspective on these matters are that we should not be comparing we should not be making these whole discussions an MPP or an NDC matter.
Okay.
Because I think that we have to look at it from a completely holistic perspective and indeed an independent-minded angle. And if you look at it from that perspective, then I would say that applying the Constitution cannot in itself amount to an interpretation of the Constitution. There are times where the two might go simultaneously. But even there, then if you look at it, if that is the position adopted, then no one else can apply the Constitution. Not the President, not the Attorney General, who have hitherto been applying the Constitution in a lot of ways. Let's remember, the President refused to even endorse, assent to the anti-witchcraft bill. The President refused to do a lot of other things. And what do they attribute it to? Because they say that, the President claimed that he has a right to do so. Now, would that be an application of the Constitution or an interpretation of it?
Isn't the wording what makes the difference?
So I need us to be very honest with ourselves in approaching some of these matters and accept that there could be a limit to how far a person could apply the Constitution. But we cannot in any way say that in an attempt to apply the Constitution, it amounts to an interpretation of it, which is the reserve of only the Supreme Court.
Okay. But with your understanding of the provision of the Constitution, you have said earlier that the party has no place in Parliament. But the question is, who determines at what point in time a member of Parliament leaves a political party? Is it a party or who?
I think the answer should be very simple, straightforward. First, the constitutional provisions of the party should be clear on that. Second, if the person is still a member of Parliament, then the Speaker has the right to determine whether circumstances and conduct amounts to a departure from a political party or an expulsion from a political party or a cross-carpet. He's the sole determinant of parliamentary protocols and procedures. No one else has that authority. It is enjoined on him by the Constitution and indeed by all the protocols in Parliament. And so without him, no one can apply these protocols. He is the sole custodian of it and the interpreter and indeed the applicant of these provisions in both the Constitution and parliamentary rules and regulations.
With where we are now, what expectation? I mean, we now know that the Supreme Court will sit on the substantive matter. We know that the status quo has been restored. Your expectation going forward on this case?
Well, at this point, I am glad that our courts have been able to rapidly hear this matter. I mean, the surprise that sprang on all of us is just an amazing thing. And I would pray that the same level of speed, as I indicated earlier, is applied in the determination of the matter so that we do not need to necessarily wait until years ahead of us before we get to the finality of this matter. I think that would just be fair and would adhere to our collective good, so that nobody reads meanings into the conduct of the Supreme Court today, because really it is very easy for anyone to say that the executive has influenced the Supreme Court to come out, sit this quick and determine this matter within a sprinkle of an eye. And so if they're able to do the same with the full determination of the matter, even if it goes against the NDC, at least I'm sure fair-minded people may judge the decision in a more positive manner than what we are currently we are witnessing.
It's been a pleasure speaking to you, Justice Abdullah. He is a law lecturer.
For God and country.
But let me bring in Dr. Tutu Boahen. Doc, so, I mean, the Supreme Court has stayed the proceedings. Your expectation of how this will impact on the political landscape going forward?
Yeah, so I think that, basically it has given us some level of understanding of the Article 97 and Article 99. And it also goes to enforce the fact that political communication is very important. Whether you are a key member of a political party or probably just a sympathizer, what we know from political communication in terms of credibility and party image is the fact that once your communication goes back and people begins to ascribe some negative interpretations to that, then of course it is going to have some level of implications, on the image and credibility of your party. And so I believe that going forward, we need to probably understand the extent to which our actions and inactions, can affect the credibility of our parties going forward. Thank you.
I'm grateful to you. Dr. Tutu Boahen is a political marketing analyst and he lectures at the University of Education, Winneba. But just before I take a break, the latest development on this particular story is that the Supreme Court of Ghana has issued a stay of execution on Speaker Alban Bagbin's ruling, which declared 4 parliamentary seats vacant. Now, Parliament has thus been instructed to recognize and allow the 4 MPs to fully represent their constituencies and carry out their official duties. This directive will remain in effect, not for the 10 days initially requested by the applicant, but until the Supreme Court delivers its final ruling on the substantive matter. There is more details on myjoyonline.com. Go on that portal now and get latest on this story coming in from the Supreme Court. We'll take a break here. We'll be back with more. Please don't go away. We'll come back from the break. Let's do more stories here. And the NDC presidential candidate John Mahama has raised concerns about what he says is the exclusion of allodial landowners in the new Saglame housing project deal. He said a future NDC government would review the current agreement to ensure the active involvement of the local people. Maxwell Agbaba has more from the first day of John Mahama's tour, where he responded to President Akufo-Addo's challenge to him on Galamsey and free SHS and the NDC's new status in Parliament.
Excitement here in the Kpone Kantamanso constituency after Deputy Minority Chief Whip Comfort Doyu announced to the crowd that the NDC was the new majority in Ghana's parliament. Later in his speech, John Mahama described it as a sign of the NDC's impending victory in December.
Can you imagine that in the twilight to the end of the administration, God has given the NDC back the majority that it won in 2020. And even before we have cast one ballot in the 2024 election, NDC is already the majority in Parliament. And so there's no doubt in my mind, absolutely no doubt, by the grace of God, inshallah, that the NDC is winning the 7th December election.
On the first day of his tour of the Greater Accra region, the NDC presidential candidate visited the Ningo, Prampram, Kpone Katamanto and Tema Central constituencies. In the Ningo Prampram constituency, John Mahama took a direct jab at President Akufo-Addo, suggesting that the president might be sleeping or is not in the country. President Akufo-Addo 2 days ago challenged former President John Dramani Mahama to clearly declare his stance on Galamsey and the free SHS.
It looks like he doesn't live in this country because I've commented on Galamsey over and over again. So he should just tell his Flagstaff House media to get him the tape of what I said at the University of Energy and Natural Resources. Recently, when I met the clergymen, the Christian community, a part of my speech and the questions and answers was again on Galamsey and small-scale mining. And so, I mean, there's a lot that I've said. It is his responsibility. The people of Ghana elected him. He is currently the president of Ghana. And it is his responsibility to deal with Galamsey now. I know that after 7 January 2025, when Ghanaians have voted for me, I will take that responsibility and we will sort out illegal mining.
On the free SHS policy, he also directly responded to the president, promising that an NDC government would address the current challenges.
Again, he's not in this country or he has been sleeping, because I have made it clear that there are implementational problems with the free SHS. 1, there's no dedicated funding. 2, parents are not happy with the double track. 3, the quality of food the children are giving is not good. And so I've said that NDC is going to come and fix these 3 things. 1, we're going to corral part of our oil revenues into a dedicated fund. And that fund will be used to finance the free SHS. That's number 1. Number 2, we're going to fast-track the completion of our educational infrastructure so that we can ease the congestion in the schools, employ more teachers, and allow all our children to go to school at the same time instead of going on a traffic light. And Nana Akufo-Addo, 3, I said I'll change your centralized feeding system. I'm going to decentralize the feeding of our children in secondary school. The money is going to go directly to their schools, and their schools will be responsible for procuring the food to feed the children in order that the food will be better quality.
John Mahama also ruled out the possibility of debating NPP presidential candidate Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
Bawumia doesn't deserve a debate. He is losing this election. I will not elevate him to my level and go and sit and debate him. Their campaign is failing. They have no message. And so he wants to be elevated to my level. No, 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 no. I know my level. In 2012, I was sworn in as president. And I went into that election as the sitting president. They called for a debate. I made myself available. I debated Nana Akufo-Addo. In 2016, I was the sitting president. IEA organized the debate. I made myself available. Nana Akufo-Addo refused to take part in the debate. In 2020, he was the sitting president. He refused to take part in a debate. But the one who responded to me when we made the call for the debate is the current flag bearer of the NPP, who is asking me for a debate. Has he forgotten what he said? That I should go to Sangma and go and debate the farmers of Sangma who don't have fertilizer. That I should go to Abosokai and go and debate the spare parts people who cannot buy dollar because dollar is 3 point something to 3 cedis point something to the dollar. He said I should go and debate the taxi drivers and the drivers who cannot buy petrol. This is the same Bawumia today asking me for a debate. As for him, the people he will debate are many. He should debate the nurses who are sitting at home who have not been posted. He should go and debate the teachers who are home who have not been posted and debate them about their licensure exams.
Well, let's dwell more on the elections and the politics of it. And Alan Chomantin's movement for change has intensified its campaign effort as the team embarked on a 12th part of the Greater Accra region. The campaign tour is part of the team's broader strategy to build momentum across the country. The team's visit to key constituencies in the Greater Accra region has seen them visit various groups, including local business owners, traditional leaders, and youth organizations to outline Alan Chomantin's policies and the core objectives of his movement for change. The following report has more.
A tour of Movement for Change campaign tour of the Greater Accra region is in full swing, and the team began the campaign from Kwabenya, went through some principal streets of Accra and other markets of the capital, and they're selling their message of change, confident that Alan Chomantin is the right man to lead Ghana going into these elections. And two leading members of the party, Nana Hininto and Hobson Adoye, are hopeful of victory.
So far, very good, I should say, because we took off this morning from the Dome Kwabenya end, and the response that I'm seeing along the route, this basically is a meet and greet and whistle stop kind of campaign. Even when you are on the move and there are people in their shops, people standing by the roadside, and they, as soon as they hear the Afro-Franto music, they begin to give you the sign of change, and they begin to give you the sign of Asiaho.
Oh, it's going on well. And when we started, I mean, because of the drizzling, it was very slow. But after Ashoma village, we got to Kwabenya market. You could see the momentum gathering. And then all throughout to this race, I can tell you it has been very fantastic. And we are praying that it continues that way. We are optimistic that we are going to make a history in this country. I mean, everybody in this country will be shocked that we did not see Alan organizing big rallies and the rest. How come did you get this vote?
Well, it's been 2 intense days of campaigning in the Greater Accra region led by leading members of the Movement for Change. They're selling the message to the people of the capital and beyond that Alan Chamartin represents the hope that Ghanaians are yearning for. But will that be enough for him to be elected in December? Ghanaians will decide on the 7th of December. Kenneth Jesse for Joy News.
Well, the elections are just 50 days away and the campaigns are on high swing, but not with some light moment. Prince Kwame Kodoga brings you a catalogue of some of those moments in the following report.
Start from here.
That's the issue we have with the Electoral Commission. Sometimes they are discriminatory because there are some people on this ballot paper who Bernard Mona qualifies more to be here than those people. And I know it will provoke controversy, but I mean it.
Well, this did not sit well with some of the candidates on the ballot paper. It's been a busy week for President Akufo-Addo and NDC's flag bearer, John Mahama. The two have been trading barbs over the ongoing battle against illegal mining.
Mr. J.M., where do you stand? What are you telling the people of Ghana? Because every time you speak from one corner of your mouth and you speak from another corner of your mouth.
And he's not in this country or he has been sleeping. So he should just tell his Flagstaff House media to get him the tape of what I said at the University of Energy and Natural Resources.
And if you thought the president was going to let Mahama have the last word, think again.
Why is John Mahama running away from the debate? Bawumia says he's ready any day for the debate. Why is Mahama running away from the debate?
Of course, John Mahama wasn't going to stay silent. He had a witty comeback ready for the president.
Their campaign is failing. They have no message. And so he wants to be elevated to my level. No. I know my level.
One thing is for sure. When you are aiming for the highest office, you've got to be ready to do it all, even if it means speaking the language of the streets.
The thing is, me, where the politics, the thing where they my heart, no, it be the people. The people are where they suffer for the country. It be where they my heart. Me, I be patron of Lepers Aid Ghana. Me then lepers, we they eat, we they drink, because they want help. Me, I be farm laborer before, by day worker. I be taxi driver before. So my heart is day the street.
Prince Kwame Kodoga's reports for Joy News.
Well, the NPP flag bearer, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, has announced plans to launch a credit scoring system in November aimed at easing the economic challenges faced by Ghanaians. He stated that this system would enable citizens to make purchases on credit, thus boosting consumer purchasing power. During his tour of the Sene East District in the Bono region, Dr. Bawumia also pledged to establish agricultural mechanization centers nationwide to improve agricultural productivity in the next NPP administration. Carlos Kaloni has been cataloguing all of these that the Vice President, who is the flag bearer of the governing NPP, has been saying. There's more in this report.
The atmosphere was electric as jubilant supporters gathered to welcome the NPP's flag bearer, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, during his tour of numerous communities in the Sene East District of the Bono region. Speaking to a crowd of chiefs and party loyalists, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia announced plans to launch a credit scoring system next month aimed at easing the country's economic hardship.
Adie miensa ehia say yembeyer credit system no yede atu from ewa Ghana. Enti enche biya either this month, October, and also next month, November, Ghana, ye be launchi ye credit scoring system in Ghana. The whole of Africa, only one country has that credit scoring system in sub-Saharan Africa, and it's South Africa. Ghana will be the second country in Africa to have a credit scoring system.
Sorry for that video there. Now, 66-year-old Jabba Donley was convicted of murder and has served 17 years in the Wa prisons. The Wa High Court, presided over by Justice Yusuf Asibe, has ordered his immediate release after the case was brought to its attention by the Legal Aid Commission. Checks reveal all documents relating to the murder charge against him could not be traced, and his mental conditions kept on deteriorating. Rafiq Salam reports.
Jabba then 49 years of age, was accused of murder and being tried at the High Court for the offense. There were other questions regarding his mental sanity, and the court made orders in that regard. Ever since the orders were made by the court on his mental state, no proceedings were made from the time to date. He was therefore staked at the Wa Central Prison at the pleasure of the president for the past 17 years. The Legal Aid Commission, through its public defender's division, undertook an exercise at the Wa prisons where they were informed about his situation. Lawyer Crispin Wallace Zieka is the Upper Regional Director of Legal Aid Commission.
Very fortunately, when we came to court today, the High Court heard the application, and what is exciting is that the Office of the Attorney General supported the application that we brought, and at the end of the day, the High Court magnanimously granted the application and ordered for his immediate release.
He disclosed that all documents regarding the murder charges leveled against him could not be traced.
In fact, we cannot even trace any of his criminal record proceedings, charge sheet, any of those things is difficult to trace. So he essentially was locked and forgotten. And so that is what is exciting, and that is what you describe as the good news that has happened today at the High Court in Wa.
Jabba Donley could not believe the judgment that was passed for his new freedom and life.
I am very excited. The judge and all the people who helped me, I don't have anything to give them, but God will reward them.
One prison officer who brought the issue of Jabba Donley to the fore is Assistant Superintendent of Prisons Al-Hassan Majid. He first reported his deteriorating condition to the Upper Regional Commander of Prisons, who gave him the orders to do his possible best for his release. This he started with contact tracing of his relatives in the Wawes district, where he was shockingly told that Jabba Donley was not alive.
I contacted a lot of lawyers, and like I said, Lawyer Crispin of Legal Aid has done so much in this case. When I contacted him with the guy, so he took it up. And then the state attorney, I think Lawyer Hammer and then Joanne, they've all done a very good job. They took up the case, assured me, if I'm able to get his relatives, they will see how best they can work, and we'll get him out of this place. So he told me to do anything that I will be able to do legally.
At the time of his arrest in 2007, was having 4 children. 2 are now deceased. His 2 wives have now remarried after they were told he was dead, locked, forgotten, and now released. He has tasted the rough side of life and hoping the remaining years will be better. Meanwhile, the High Court will begin on Friday the trial of the case of the murder of the owner of Jiriba Dubai, Eric Johnson. 3 persons, including prime suspect Eliasa Mahama, are standing trial over the murder of the chief executive officer of Jiriba Dubai. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wa.
This is still Pulse here on the Joy News channel. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more. Please do stay. Oh, welcome back from the break now. The final sport in the National Science and Math Quiz, 1/8 stage has been claimed. Now, after a gripping tie-breaker contest between Zion College, Memphima SHS and Ascend Manso SHS, all of whom finished with 40 points in their respective prelims, Zion College triumphed to secure the 81st and last spot in the next stage. Jacqueline Sumayabua has more in the following report.
The 2024 National Science and Maths Quiz is heating up as 1A stage lineup is now complete with 42 preliminary winners, 31 seeded schools, and 8 top runner-ups. However, the fight for that coveted 81st spot didn't come easy. Zion College and Memphiman Senior High School and Ascend Manso Senior High all found themselves tied at 40 points each in their preliminary contest, forcing a tie-breaker.
I'm going to ask you 4 different questions, one from each subject area, and we'll go with the same rules. The first school that rings their bell will get the opportunity to answer. If the answer is incorrect and the second school rings, they answer. If the answer is incorrect, a third school can ring and they answer. So at the end of the 4 questions, we'll take the school with who has answered the highest number of questions. If at the end of that, all of you are the same, there has been 0 questions answered or just 1 question each, we'd have a 5th question which will break the tie. The first person to answer that question correctly goes through.
In the tiebreaker contest, it was Zion College that came out on top, earning their place among the top runner-ups. This win adds them to the group moving forward in the competition, making them the final school to qualify.
Find the potential energy of the object at its greatest height. Zion College.
640 joules.
That's correct. What name is given to the protective tissues that are formed by the cork cambium? Belled out. Okay. So Zion College goes through. Yeah, so the tie has been broken and Zion College qualifies for the 1A.
With the stage now set, the battle begins as the best of the best prepare to face off in what promises to be an exciting next phase. Eyes are locked on the 1A stage where intellectual sparks are sure to fly. For Joy News, I'm Jacqueline Ansima Yaboa.
Now, the power of the creators and influencers in shaping national conversations is being felt even more these days as they take up courses such as fighting illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey. Now, with the 2024 elections coming up in December, Influencer Africa is partnering the School of Communication Studies at the University of Ghana to harness this influence to even greater effect at a fun and learning event this Saturday at the Nubuke Foundation, East Legon, Accra. Joining me in the studio to delve deeper into this is my own mentor and a coach, because since I came here, he's been doing a lot back door. Israel Lai, who's a broadcaster and now executive head of Influencer Africa. Israel, great to have you.
Yes, good to be here.
I guess I have to leave the last part of the show to you so that people have missed you. So you
it's your job. You're in the seat tonight, so you have to do all that.
Well, my viewers stay there. I'll let him wrap up the show for us so that you can, I also have Delasi at Dukonu. She's senior strategist in Influencer Africa. Delasi, how are you?
Very well. How are you too?
I'm well. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
And I also have Professor Abenai Nimwa Yeboah Benin. She's head of department of the Department of Communications, University of Ghana. Well, they are still trailing UCC, but it's fine. Today's about them, so we'll do it. Prof, how are you?
Very, very fine.
Great. So let me start with you, Bralai. Yeah. What's really the goal of what you want to do?
Right. So we, at Influence Africa, we work with influencers and creators. But what we do is we bring a science to the art of influencer marketing. and which requires that every now and then we train the influencers or bring them up to speed. But typically, if we're doing a training for content creators and influencers, it's not going to be your typical training or seminar where people come and sit and there's a lot of talk. But we create a fun environment so that they can come in, and as they're having fun, we also, give them, impart the knowledge that we want to share with them. So that's the whole idea of Creator-thon. So it's a space where influencers come together and they get training, but in a fun environment. Now, a few months ago, this year, there was a session, a disinformation and misinformation summit by the Ghana Report. And I was moderating the event. So while moderating the event, with all that was going on, and they were working towards the 2024 election, how to fight fake news, during the elections. So I was moderating the event and looking at the way the conversations were going. I pledged that I would see what we could do with influencers and Influencer Africa we could do to also get the influencers on board this campaign. I just said that, just saying it, to the wind, and it turned out that Prof was in the audience. And then she reached out to me subsequently and said, I have done some work with the department in the past, the previous election, where I did a video to tell people about, what to look out for, when it comes to misinformation, disinformation. So he said, we're going to do that again this year, but this time we're asking you, because you're with Influencer Africa, if you could select some influencers for us. So she was looking at maybe 3-4 top influencers to get this done. Then I said, okay, why don't we partner so that we can take it, onto a much bigger scale and bring on board a lot more influencers so that the message will go a lot further than just 4 or 5 influencers. And that was how Creator-thon was, Creator-thon 2024 was born. She would add to it.
Okay. So Prof, how's it going to be like? I mean, if I hear Creator-thon, that's what you call
Creator-thon.
it. Oh,
so
interesting.
Creator-thon is an existing platform where creators come together, learn, and create. But tomorrow what we're doing is a media and information literacy Creator-thon, because now the learning that is going to take place is about media and information literacy issues, how influencers themselves and through them their followers can become more conscious in their information consumption and use, how to become a bit more tempered in what you decide to click and share, click and forward, click and like, etc., etc. So tomorrow we're having 2 panel discussions in which we're doing learning, but learning delivery in a very different way, not your typical classroom lecture, somebody talking at you, but it's a discussion between influencers and subject experts, joining ideas through which these influencers learn about media and information literacy issues, how to verify information, how to discern potentially fake news, how to be the, if you like, the channel through which their followers gain education about the information ecosystem and the better ways of consuming information. So we're having panel discussions. The nature of Creator-thon is also that it has to be set up in an environment that is fun, engaging, an environment that has vibe. And so that when the creators come there, they are in a certain mental space and they want to create. And we're hoping that part of the creations they do would be things that educate young Ghanaians, Ghanaian voters, Ghanaian citizens about the better ways to deal with election-related information. Because as we inch closer to December 7, not everything on there is trustworthy, and people need to be conscious about that, and people also need to know how to verify such information.
And what's the intent in measuring the impact of what you do tomorrow?
Well, we would think we've been successful if after tomorrow, conversations in digital spaces are taking a tone for being conscious. People are expressing, positive attitudes towards not being in a hurry to click and share. That before you click to share, pause a little bit, think about what I'm coming to share. Have I tried to see whether it's true? Before I create this content, what is my intent here? Whom am I trying to influence? For what reason? How does it help us in this election? How does it protect Ghana's interest ultimately? So we would define ourselves as having been successful if after tomorrow, conversations within digital spaces start congregating around these issues in the hopes that young Ghanaians will become a bit more tempered in their behaviors within digital spaces.
Dalasi, who and who can be part of this training?
Anyone who has some level of influence over people. I think historically or traditionally, it would have been mainly limited to journalists. But today, as we have new media, we have digital media and all that, we are inviting journalists, we are inviting influencers, content creators, and people that are even active in disseminating information, like bloggers, and, you know, some call themselves social media broadcasters and all that. We want everyone to come together so that we learn about this worthy cause. Because aside the harm that it could do to society, it could do harm to yourself and your integrity as well. If you are known to be sharing things that are untrue or things that are exaggerated, people wouldn't take you seriously. And as an influencer, you need an audience that believes in what you do. So we are just trying to, as Israel said, in a continuous effort to impart in influencers how to better do their job and how to better make value out of what they do. We want everyone to come together so that we can all learn how to verify before we reshare information.
How long is it going to be? So if I am coming, I can psych myself that this is how long.
It's an afternoon event. It starts at 12 p.m. tomorrow at Nubuke Foundation. By 5-6 p.m. we'll be done. But maybe if you people want us to do after party, we can think about it. But the main thing between 12 and 6 p.m. will be done.
Once there will be a lot of jawule, why not? We can do after party, no problem. But so if I want to be part of it tomorrow, Bryzy, what should I come along with? What should be my preparation for the event tomorrow?
You're just coming with an open mind to come learn. But you should also be prepared. Typically, when we gather in a space like this and with the props that we would provide, the creators come in and they want to create content. So you may want to bring the tools that you use to create your content, maybe your lapel microphone and any other thing that you think would help you to create content. But just come with an open mind. You're coming to have fun, create content, and then definitely you're going to walk away with something. And there's going to be food, there's going to be drinks, and yeah, we're taking care of everybody who's coming through.
Would there be sort of some key lines that after tomorrow, those who be there would be expected to then start tagging along from this training?
Yes, so the plan tomorrow is to announce some hashtags at least, so that on social media when people are posting, we can connect the different conversations that tomorrow's event is generating. We also have some key messages that during the program tomorrow we'll be sharing with the influencers, so that when they're creating their content, a line or two references to these key messages in their content would also be helpful.
Okay. Just before we wrap up, what would be your last words that you leave our viewers with?
I'd say it's a beautiful Saturday and it's a beautiful day to equip yourself with good information that can help you in this election season and beyond. Not only you, but Mother Ghana as well. So let's put on our patriotic garb. Let's come to Nubuke Foundation. Let's learn a thing or two. Let's have a very peaceful election and a much peaceful after election as well. So see you all tomorrow.
Nubuke is East Legon?
Yes.
Those of us who are from Agram Content, anywhere, you would have to help us.
If you enter Nubuke in your Google Maps, you would find it. And it's not too far from Mensvik Hotel. On the Lagos Avenue.
Okay.
So one other thing that I'd like to add to it is what we're doing tomorrow is a recognition of the influence or the power of influencers and creators. You know, some years ago, it was traditional media. So you're either listening to radio or TV or the newspaper for credible information for your news. But these days, it's not just that. We're having influencers who have millions of followers. And we're having TV or radio stations that are actually struggling to have like 50,000 viewers on any day. You know, unlike the Joy News and the rest, I mean, Joy News is dominant. It's an established TV station. So yes, you'd have, you know, lots and lots of followers. But there are also these creators who have significant following. And so what we're trying to do tomorrow is to acknowledge the fact that these people have come of age.
Okay.
But then we're also telling them that because you have come of age, there are some things that you need to do to gain the credibility that like the Joy News and the Joy FMs would have.
Okay.
So that's a process where we're taking them through, and we're hoping that all of you who are out there who are into content creation and who have some influence, or you're looking at becoming influencers, this is a conversation that you should be part of.
Okay. All right.
I mean, at least
Okay.
it's an opportunity for you to network.
All right. Thank you very much.
And we have some thank yous actually. Thank you to Multimedia for giving us a platform, and the Canadian Eye Commission, which is supporting this initiative.
Someone says I'm waiting for Israel to wrap up. So easy. Wrap up the pulse and let's take a leave.
Which camera should I look into? Okay. So that'll be it for the pulse for today. My name is Israel Lai, and I've been hosting the show with some of Kojo Brace, the Lasia Dukonu, and Professor Benning. You have a wonderful day, and we'll see you same time Monday.